In this video, I will show you the second way of creating a nav tag. The second way is more complex, but is recommended by the official HTML specification. Let's have a look on my screen. On the left side, I have my code editor. There's nothing in it. We will create our project right here. On the right side of the screen, you can see the final effect, which we are going to do in this video. What we have here is a simple project of a website where we have this gray area placed as a section of our website, and above it we have a navigation. The final effect is like this, and after hovering on the button of our navigation, we will get this hover effect. So let's get to work. First thing we want to do is to create a new file, which we are going to call index.html file. With no surprises, let's create our default structure. Let's decrease those text indents to save some space. Let's give it a title like this. Let's save our file. Let's go to our body tag. Let's create our section. Just for the visual effect of what happens with our navigation, where we're styling it. And now we want to create our nav tag. The second way, and recommended by the HTML language way of creating a nav tag, is this. We are creating a nav tag, and inside it, we create the UL tag. UL means the unordered list. We have also the OL tag, which means ordered list, but we usually place unordered lists on our websites. Inside our UL tag, we are placing LI elements. LI means list item. So every position in our navigation, which is an unordered list, is going to be LI element. So the list item, so the item of the list. So we are going to have 5 of those list elements. But that's not all, because as you know, our positions and our nav tag are supposed to be clickable. So we usually place them as the A tags, our anchors. So inside each of our list item, we place our A tag with the href attribute of hash and text inside it, which will be button 1, for example. So this is how it's going to look like. Then we can copy our list items, for example, 5 times. Change the numbers. Like this. And we have our navigation ready. So once again, what we did here is placing the nav tag. And inside our nav tag, we are placing the list, unordered list, which is the UL tag. And every position of our navigation is inside this list in the LI tag, which is the list item, with nested A tag inside each list item. That is how it's going to work, and that's how it's going to look like. But now I want to show you how we can create it with the image shortcut. At the beginning, you probably will type everything manually and slowly, but it's good to know that something like the image shortcut exists, because it will make your work quicker and more comfortable in the future. So what we want to place here is the nav tag, inside of which we want to have an UL tag, inside of which we want to have the LI tag, and we want 5 of those, so LI times 5. Inside every LI tag, we want to have the A tag, and I showed you before that with the round brackets, we can place, for example, an href attribute with the hash inside. Then after placing the curly brackets, we can place the text inside our A tags, which would be button, and placing a $sign, we will give it a proper number. Now placing these Emmet shortcuts is good to delete the last character and place it once again, just to be sure that the Emmet highlights all the line of our shortcut properly. So when we hit the enter key, our navigation will be created how it's supposed to. So once again, we want to have a nav tag, inside of which we want to have a UL tag, inside of which we want to have 5 li tags, and inside each of these li tags, we want to have an a tag with the href attribute of hash and the text of button with the proper number. Since we have 5 elements, it will be from 1 to 5. Let's hit enter and see if it works. And we can see it works perfectly fine. Now let's save our file. Let's open our file with the live server. And this is the effect we are going to get. You can see that our elements are now placed one below each other. That's because the li tag as well as the ul tag are the block elements. It doesn't matter that our a tag is an inline element because it's nested in the block element, which is our list item. Now you can see those dots right here. Let me just zoom it a little bit. And this is the default list style of unordered list. If we would change our unordered list to ordered list, so the ol tag like this, we will get the numbers by default. As I said, we usually don't place ordered list on our website. We usually place unordered list like this. And even more, the first thing we do creating those lists is getting rid of those default dots. Alright, now our whole HTML structure of our project now is ready. This is the same file as you can see in our final project. So this is how this website looked without CSS, and this is how it looks with CSS. Let's go to our project now. Let's create our style CSS file. You may notice that something appeared right here. Some settings of the Visual Studio Code changed. We don't need this right here. Don't bother about it. Let's create our CSS style file with the new file, style CSS. We have it opened right here. Let's import it to our HTML file below our title tag, placing the link tag with the rel style sheet attribute, and the href width would be our style CSS file. Just like this. Let's go to our style CSS file, and now let's start to style our website. First of all, let's get rid of those text indents. Let's make them smaller. Now let's start with our total reset, where we want to set our margin to 0 and our padding also to 0. Voila. Now let's start our section just so we can see it. It would be better for us to style our nav this way. Let's set its height to 300 pixels and its background color to DDD, like this. And now what we want to do is to style our nav. So let's start by creating our CSS rules for all the elements in our navigation. We have a nav tag. Inside it, we have a unordered list. Inside our list, we have the list items. And inside it, we have our A tags. which are our links. So as you can see, we have many options for styling our A tags and their containers, and even its main container, which is the list, or even we can refer to the whole navigation of our website. For now, it might be not so obvious for you, but it really may come in handy when it comes to style our elements. The more options we have for styling in relation to a child and a parent is better. And usually when we want to start styling our nav tag, for me it's the best to style from the bottom, so from the elements nested inside all of the elements, which are our A elements. So let's do it. Let's change their font size to 20 pixels, like this. Let's get rid of those text decorations, like this. Let's change its font family to Arial, like this. Let's use the text transform to uppercase. Let's place the letter spacing, a small one, for example 1 pixel, just like this. And let's add some paddings to it. For example, 20 pixels from every side. Now you can see that our padding works from the left and the right side of our buttons, but it doesn't work on the top and the bottom, and that's because of the display property, which we have by default, as always, with the A tags as inline. So let's change it, but this time not to inline block, but to block, like this. Let's see the difference. And now we can see those paddings perfectly working. Why I did this, why didn't I place the inline block? I'll show you. Like this, we placed the inline block property and nothing actually changed. And that's because our A tags are not placed next to each other. Those are not brothers, because every A tag is inside in the LI tag. So the list items are the brothers. Inside of every LI tag we have a single A tag, so it has no chance to align itself to its brothers because it has no brothers. It's only one single A tag and LI tag. So what we want to align as inline block elements are not the A tags, but the LI tags, which we will do in a moment. Let's go back to our A tags. We can leave it as block, because this way we will get full control of these elements without those tricks of the inline block elements where we have to use font size 0 on the parent element, etc. So let's leave it as block, and we will get it exactly like this. So let's set our buttons next to each other, and as I said before, we have to place this property, display inline block, to our list items. Let's check it out. Display. Now we have block, so the elements of the list place themselves one below other, and we can change it to inline block, and let's see the effect. Voila, this is what we'll get. Now let's spread our list items so that we will get them spread it equally on the whole nav tag, on our whole navigation. So let's set their width to 20%. As we know, 20% times 5 equals 100%. So our elements should fit perfectly in the whole nav tag. But as we can see, they don't. Let's place a dummy background color for a moment. For example, EEE. And we can see our familiar little spaces related to the inline block property. So as you may guess, what we want to do is to set the font size to their parent, which is the UL tag, which is our list. We want to set its font size to 0. So let's do it. Let's check it out. And we can see everything works perfectly fine. Now we don't need this background color of these elements. I just wanted to show you so you could see it better. And now we don't see it, but our list has still its list style set by default. Let me show this to you by commenting all our styles right now. This is what I'm talking about. Our list by default, so our UL tag, our unordered list, has by default this list style, which is visible as those dots next to each our list element. So we want it always to place list style none, just so they can disappear. And as I said before, even though we can't see it right now because of our styling, it's still there, and it might appear in some random situations. So it's always good to place in the UL tag this property called list style with the value of none, just so we could be sure that no dots or any other symbols will appear next to our list items. Now we can see that our buttons are equally spread on the whole width of the navigation, but we can see that at the left edge of our browser window is a smaller space than from our right edge. And that's because the text inside each our list item is aligned to left. So we can use text align property with the value of center to center it like this. You can already see the difference. And now we can go to our nav tag to specify its CSS styles so that our navigation could look exactly like this. Let's set its background color to black. And let's set the color of our buttons to white. Like this. Now let's set the width of our whole navigation. We can see it's not set to the 100% in our final project. So let's set its width to 90%, like this. Of course, we can see it's automatically aligned to the left. So here we got the free space of it. So we can center it with the margin property. Let's say we also want a margin from a top and the bottom of 30 pixels, for example, and the auto value from the left and the right to center our whole navigation. As we can see, exactly like here. We can also place a padding to our navigation. Let's say we want 0 pixels from the top and the bottom and 20 pixels from left and right. So you can see we have those additional spaces right here made by the padding, just so we can round it up like here. This is where our navigation starts without the padding, and this is the space added by the padding, as you can see, which then got round up. So let's do this in our project. We have this property called border radius, and if we place it, for example, value of 5 pixels, we will get rounded our corners of the element just a little. If we increase it to the value of 10 pixels, it will be more rounded. And in our project, we want to have it to be 20 pixels. Now we can see that our navigation is rounded as in the final project. Also, what we want to set in this project is the max width of our navigation, for example, to 1024 pixels, like this. So it will get 90% of the width of the browser window till it reaches 1024 pixels. Then it stays in the same width in the center of our website. Let's place it back where it was, right here. And the last thing we have to do is this hover effect on our navigation. And we wanted to place it in our A tags like this. With the hover pseudo class, of course. And all we want to change in this element is background color, which we want it to be 555. Let's see how this works. And you can see it works perfectly fine. Now, as you can see, our project is ready. And it's the same as our final project we started with. So this is the second way of creating a navigation on your website, which I wanted to show you. But now it's time for your assignment.